So let's look at one more of the advanced word problems that deal with the Pythagorean theorem. And I've copied down the Pythagorean theorem here, the relationship between the sides of a right triangle. So in this problem, a builder makes drain pipes that drop 1 centimeter over a horizontal distance of 30 centimeters to prevent clogs. And this diagram below is not drawn to scale, but we essentially have this scenario where if it drops 1 centimeters, then we have a 30 centimeter increase horizontally. Or in other words, every 30 centimeters, it's going to drop 1 centimeter. So a certain drain pipe needs to cover a horizontal distance of 700 centimeters. So this bottom length needs to be 700, and we need to figure out what the total length of the drain pipe is, and we've called that L in this problem, and we'll round it to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. So with these drain pipes, every 30 centimeters, it drops 1 centimeter. So you can imagine this continuing as you go on, and we just need that, essentially the total length of that drain pipe as it goes for 700 horizontal centimeters. Now, one of the key points with these is that we're essentially taking this triangle and scaling it. So you can imagine stretching the triangle out so that it now has a 700 centimeter base to it. But it's going to be proportional. So in other words, these two triangles are what is known as similar triangles. They have all the same angles and their sides are proportional. So basically, we multiplied this 30 centimeter side by a certain amount, and this 1 centimeter side would also be multiplied by that same amount. And you can figure that out by setting up proportions. But before we get to that part, let's first figure out what this hypotenuse length would be. So we can call this x and solve for that. And then we can just multiply that by our proportional amount to get to this bigger triangle. So to find x, we have a right triangle here, so we can use the Pythagorean theorem. The hypotenuse, we call that c, and the legs we call a and b. So we have that 1 squared plus 30 squared is equal to x squared. 1 squared is just 1, 30 squared is 900. And we add those together, so we get 901. And we're going to take a square root of each side, so x is just going to be the square root of 901. And we're going to leave rounding to the very end. So let's leave this as an exact answer as the square root of 901, since this is an irrational number. And if we plug it into the calculator now, we will have to round it, and then we're going to round again at the end. So the more times you round during a problem, the further off the final answer will be. So if you can save all your rounding to the end, that would be preferred. So we found that this is the square root of 901. So with similar triangles, we can set up this proportion. Basically, that this side compared to this side, so the 30 centimeter side compared to the 700 centimeter side, is the same as this square root of 901 side, this x side length, compared to this length L. So let's write that. The 30 centimeter side compared to the 700 centimeter side, or essentially we're dividing them, we're looking at their ratio, is the same ratio as this x side, which is root 901, compared to this length L. And from here, we have an equation where we can solve for L. So let's multiply each side of the equation by L so that it gets out of the denominator. And let's just rewrite it. We have L multiplied by 30 over 700, and this is equal to the square root of 901. And now we just need to multiply each side by 700 and divide by 30. So essentially, we're multiplying each side of this equation by 700 over 30, by the reciprocal of this fraction here. So L would then be equal to the square root of 901 multiplied by 700 over 30. And at this point, we can plug this into the calculator and round it. And when you do that, you get 700.3887 and so on. It will be irrational because of this irrational number. And we need to round to the nearest tenth. So it would be 700.38, which would round up to 4. And this is in centimeters. So this is one way to look at it by setting up these proportion here with similar triangles. But it might be more straightforward to just think, what did you multiply by to go from 30 to 700? And you can just find that by dividing 700 over 30. That is 23.3 repeating. So you can do the same thing because these are similar triangles. They are proportional. Take this root 901 and multiply it by that same number, this 23.3 repeating. And if you put that into the calculator, you'll get the exact same answer, since 23.3 repeating is that 700 over 30, which is what we multiplied root 901 by. So there are a couple ways to think about this, but ultimately these two triangles are similar, which means they are proportional to each other.